Are we recording?
Well. Yeah, but it's only, you can only hear it on this, like it's not going through that for some reason. Anyway.
Participants?
Brian Turner and Sheila Grant.
Can they hear us through the owl?
Brian, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
How about Sheila?
can you hear us, Sheila?
I can.
Okay, great. All right. The warrants are being taken care of. We will come back to the minutes at the next meeting. Is there anybody signed up for public comment?
Nope.
No? All right, public comment is closed. Town manager report.
Right, you've got the budget report year to date and the current reserve balances include the 2 withdrawals that we've made and the additions that have been voted on at town meeting, and then the debt service schedule that we have currently for our 5 debts, 3 bonds, 2 notes. You have a detailed spreadsheet, and then you have the supporting documentation on each of those 5. Debt service. The other updates, comp plan has been mailed, as you directed the day after the meeting, mailed the paper. And then since then have mailed the copy that included the printouts that James Pullen kindly printed out. And he also sent a request to Dean Bradstreet for several that were missing to see if we can fill in the gap. And if those come along, then I'll forward those on as well. So that's been submitted to the planning office. The climate resiliency work, Lori Osher and I were scoping out when possibility of doing a workshop. And we're looking, and this would be probably a 2-hour workshop that would need a community piece around scoping out, getting as many participants as possible, filling out the rankings and priorities that then Lori would use to crunch the numbers on to give us our target priorities. We were looking at Monday, November 13th. And since doing that, just in the last couple of days, the DOT Village Partnership has been talking at the urging of DOT, wanting to see if we can move up our calendar because we may be a priority for potential funding in 2024. So they want to try to move up proceeding on that to possibly be in position to apply for funds in April would be the application date. So
Should I wait?
yeah, so originally, part of the reason of that was we've been thinking the big chunk of money for, what are we seeing? I was getting confused, 15, 16. Or
6/15.
6/15. So the big piece of funding for the Route 15 work was for 2025.
Mm-hmm.
But DOT is thinking that we might be eligible for federal funds in 2024 and that they're targeting us as one of those priorities to potentially put in an application in April for a portion or of the project or some aspect of that. So wanting to do a planning meeting or a review to start looking at concepts and have that community input. So I proposed back to them asking what their availability would be on Monday, November 13th. With the thinking being that we're closed for business on Monday in town. Many of the businesses that we probably want to participate in that were closed. Be a good opportunity to get some food, see how many people we can get up to the gymnasium late afternoon, have a review the DOT piece, a break for supper and a couple hours of Lori's piece. So looking to piggyback those because they're both two big potential planning initiatives, that the more turnout we have, the better for it, and that would be a focus date. So I was going to propose that date to see if that would work, coordinate with the planning board around that, and then if hear back from DOT and go along with it, that is a date that would work for them late afternoon. Proceed with trying to do double booking for that date.
It works for me. Does it work for you guys?
Yeah.
I don't know what my schedule is.
Yeah.
That works for me.
See, North Guilford Speed Road.
Sorry, just
Sorry.
before we move on. So there's two initiatives, separate initiatives here. One is the state plan to do the work on Route 15 through town.
Right, the village partnership.
No.
Okay. Right, the $15 million for
Yeah.
15 piece.
And does that have anything to do with what you're talking about?
It could, I mean, and the thinking is we were lining up the village partnership maybe for the 2025 construction season. But what DOT is suggesting is there might be additional federal funding that would be available in 2024.
Gotcha. So the construction schedule for the road work is still 2025.
It could be aspects that are earlier than that. I think depending on what's available for 2024, they want to have us possibly apply for funds.
But those are separate things. We have the village partnership initiative, and through that process, we come up with ideas for what we would like the downtown to look like. That is, and then we go after funding to implement that. That is separate from the rebuilding of the road.
Yes.
So is anything changing with the rebuilding of the road? Or that is still
That's still on schedule.
2025 work plan?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So is it that new funding opportunities have opened up? And so
Yes.
DOT would like to accelerate our
Yes.
VPI process?
Yes.
Got it.
And Goral Palm would give the same recommendation.
Yeah.
Some of their concepts that are coming forward might be funded through this earlier funding piece. So
Got
they are recommending as well to accelerate our schedule to potentially have a portion of the project or the project for application in April.
Got it. Very good. Thank you.
So that's for the village partnership initiative. Does Goro Palmer and them know that could be a possible acceleration to the timeline?
They're the ones that,
They're the ones
Yeah.
that came out?
yeah, they're the ones that messaged us and said, yes, would you want to consider this? To which I said, yes, and would pose to them with November 13th be an available date for you.
That's great.
For you. Thinking that if that did work, it's a lot, it'd be a full agenda, but it's the sort of thing we could set up the gym. Yeah, display materials, we could set up for workshop, we can get food. And have people come spend some time around those two initiatives.
Great.
North Guilford Road, I've had multiple consultations with the sheriff around enforcement issues around that and other enforcement issues in town. So the sheriff knows that that's a priority for us, and conversations with Tim Susi, who's part of the DOT locally and is the one who works with us around enforcement issues. He was here for that site visit on July 13th and have explained the situation to him with the speeds to get more signs. Those were due last week. I followed up with him this week. I'm hoping he comes. I told him we were meeting today to get additional signs for the for the speed limits around the enforcement, the 25, the 45, the 35 piece. And to also set up that we can order through him to set up to order those more intricate flashing signs or signal signs if we want to invest in that. So there are additional signs coming that will come complementary. The flashing ones we'll need to purchase.
Bill, where did you talk to about that?
Tim Susi is DOT. He's,
okay.
yeah, regionally. He's based over in Wilton, but he has this region. He was here for the site visit. He's
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and he's the one that's coordinating updates. They did the big culvert replacement
Mhm.
Just north of the Elliotsville Road. That was identified the day we did the site visit.
Okay.
That failing culvert, so they've replaced that one already. They've identified, or we showed them the sunken storm drains out here that need to be elevated. There are 3 of them that have cones marking the pitfalls. That's DOT jurisdiction. We flagged on that. There was some additional washout this weekend up on Tenny Hill. So I spoke with Tim about that as well, replacing those washouts.
So is Tim under the DOT on North Carolina? So you have purview on it?
Yes, yeah, he's the one that coordinates, and Elena and I have conferred on this, that he's the one that comes and coordinates around speed limits and what you can do and what you can post and how you post it.
Is it possible to interject something? I saw today, I was driving from Bangor to Dexter through Levant, and there's an area where the speed drops from 50 or 55 down to 30, and they simply had about the size of this piece of paper, an orange flag. I mean, it was just an orange square above the speed limit sign. Otherwise, I would have blown right through it, but even that caught my attention, so
Yeah, I was
very
gonna suggest
simple,
that, cause,
very cheap.
yeah, I've seen that as well, like two flags on each side of the, attached to the corners of us. There's one down on Elliotsville Road, for the weight limit.
And it would be very, very cheap. I
Yeah.
mean, you could do it in hours versus spending thousands on a flashy sign. I mean, at least as a show of good faith. I know you talked about that last time, doing something that's a positive step. It might be something to think about.
Yeah, thanks.
So we have signs on order for me?
Yes, yes. I hope that we're gonna be here already. Not to increase the number of signs, but the transitions are there in both directions. I've spoken with the sheriff about
I have
that as well.
a question, and this, I don't know who knows the answer, maybe DOT and Elena that was working on this, but I understood there was, in our previous conversations, some of the town roads, the speed limit, something about like DOT.
We never officially set the speed.
Set them, right? So, for example, in my new fancy vehicle, it tells you what the speed limit on any road is that you're on. And when I go up North Guilford, it'll change to 25, but then it doesn't show, there's some parts of it, of that road that it doesn't show. So I don't know if that's connected to
Oh,
DOTs.
interesting. Like it's not in the system.
Yeah, or is it a
It could be.
navigation error?
So if you want the details, so the way Tim explains it from,
Sorry.
yeah, that's significant. From their, from DOT's perspective, there are just 2 speed limits on the North Guilford Road, 25 and 45.
No, 35.
There is a 35 sign.
There is a
Yeah.
35 sign.
Yeah.
That's what Tim explained to me. The sheriff said, no, we will enforce on 35.
Oh, really? Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
So there is an issue there around when we work with DOT, how and what they post.
Right,
But the sheriff is also willing to
'Cause it's posted.
enforce.
yeah.
I
Well,
I don't think it's an enforcement issue. I just think it's a presence issue that the signs just need to be on. So this will,
Yeah, we'll flag them.
if they're coming, that's great.
Because, yeah, I would say it's I would say it's a little bit about the enforcement part, because the signs are up.
The signs are up, but
The two most
Highlighting. I
important
like the
areas are coming on North Guilford Road
Yes.
here, and then coming down where it changes to 25.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the kids are.
That's,
And
and it's outbound in the morning and it's inbound in the evening.
I mean, the whole of North, it's not just those two
True.
areas. So enforcement, I do agree that the place where enforcement will help, like, I'm sure by your house, JD, I know when I'm at my parents', it's scary as people come over that hill going
And they're coming
60,
down,
70, 80.
Yeah.
My parents have had people pass in front of their house and other things. And so even the rumor that the sheriff is looking at it more closely and, you know, that word gets
Yeah, we
around.
Sure, I think that's probably more likely that, often what they do is just nab a couple people to
Right,
get the word out, but
right.
they're not gonna be patrolling on
Exactly.
any consistent basis. But yeah, this is to your earlier point, this is, in town is really the
safety
conversation
priority.
right now, yeah.
So I've continued to follow up to no avail to get a response from Kim Emerson, but we'll continue there. And Tyler, I'd still welcome your assistance on that. Okay. for the
what was that on the GIS?
That's the Axiom.
Oh, the Axiom, okay.
Actually, the GIS main project is tomorrow with our tax assessor for that to begin feeding those updated maps. Let's see, the JD and I had a very productive meeting this morning with John Simcoe, our banker with Andrew Scoggin Bank, around financing options, but we also discussed a variety of other issues as well. And I've been consulting with John Simcoe and with town attorney Zach around continued efforts on tightening up our financial procedures. In particular, these are things that will help us in our risk assessment. So when Andrew Scoggin gives us a bid on financing us, they do risk assessment based on our financial procedures and tightness around that. And the big standard there is dual control for cash management. So that's the standard that doing consulting on would be some additional recommendations probably coming to you from that, in addition to what the auditors have presented, but trying to coordinate that so that we've got our bankers' input, MMA's our insurer, our legal advice, to really have those as tight as possible.
And so with the work product there is a policy or?
Yeah, potentially some policies. Our auditors have recommendations that we're implementing around that. But policies around the dual controls, something that we've been doing to make sure that access to the accounts are dual and that monitoring is dual. But yeah, it could be some recommendations coming to you around that.
And when should we expect that?
That's a good question.
Because if it's part of the process or part of the evaluation process by the bank, then we should probably have it in place before we finalize
Yeah.
any sort of financing.
Well, I'd say it's good. I mean, John, as I talked with John, scope things out and with his meeting today, he's aware of those changes and updates. But yes, absolutely agree with you that it improves our position to have those have those in place.
Well, I have a question, kind of somewhat related probably, but,
So probably, I guess, to answer that, probably for the next meeting, can have additional recommendations to you
Okay,
in the
but,
consultation.
and so is this, I guess I'm just trying to envision like what is the actual thing here? Is it amendments to our current policies, or do we not have any written policies and these would be the first written policies?
It would be new in some cases, I think, in terms of background checks, credit checks, whatever the policies are for staff that have access to that and what the standards are, and approaching in a way to.
Sure, but is it an amended policy or is it a new policy?
Parts would be new. Background checks, credit checks, that would be new. I don't think you do that as the standard practice now. So that would be new.
Well, are we amending an existing policy or are we creating a new policy?
It's not clear to me. I'm not sure what your policy is around.
Do we have a policy? If it's not a,
Yeah, I don't think so.
then just say no.
Okay, no.
So we're creating policy.
Yeah.
Okay, great,
policy
that's all.
around that.
That's all I wanted to know. Yeah. And we'll have our draft for review at the next meeting.
Yeah, no, I wasn't being evasive. If somebody says to me, we do, then we can update.
Yeah, I'm not aware. Marty's not aware. You're
it
not
would
aware.
be nice
You probably
to
don't.
see it.
Yeah. So, all right, all good. So we'll
Okay.
review the first draft of our inaugural updated control policies at the next meeting.
Can I just ask this question before you go on? Because I wanted to ask it during the financial part here, but it might be related. I don't know what in terms of, what the bank looks at in future loan agreements or whatever, but I read somewhere and I can't remember what it was. There's a legal limit that a town can have for outstanding or for debt. And do you know what that is?
I don't. I went over those numbers with John today and said that, currently 1/8 of our budget goes to debt service.
Okay, I know
And John,
it's in the MMA manual, but I
Yeah,
just.
and John, interestingly, is also the chair of the Maine Municipal
Yeah.
Bond Bank. So he knows our entire portfolio.
And he didn't have a comment when
Didn't
we
blink.
did, well, he just said.
Yeah.
I think you made the comments like, we're pretty high, he was like, good point, not really, so.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, he didn't indicate any.
And about those controls, is that something that you found, or was it something that someone had?
No, these are discussions with our town attorney and bank. And our banker
Oh,
won't
sorry, that
say
was-
what's required
sorry.
that way, but they like it when controls are in place.
Yeah.
Or
But
turns.
but there wasn't anything that, from an audit or anything that said, hey, your controls are. It's just something,
There's some auditor
it's a self-assessment.
recommendations that we've implemented, but this is more,
I don't think I
Yeah,
saw
this is a
in the audit, I didn't see anything about it.
no, this is
Credit
more
checks.
self-assessment around making sure that all our bank accounts that we have dual access by, folks who are authorized to do that. We're still updating and updating accounts and getting things.
Have you seen anything in bank accounts that you would raise awareness to or anything like that?
No, I think the audit that you had,
You're just saying that the general practice that we have.
general practice. This is one of those of several items that I think it's good to deal with it up front.
I agree with that.
And just deal with it up front. I'll be the first one. Frankly, I'm accustomed to background and credit checks in the application process for town managers, signing off on those forms and doing that. And I'm surprised that wasn't done for me. My recommendation would be, I'll lead off and say, sign up for credit, whatever we choose to do, but just have that as standard policy.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
I think covers updates except the stuff that's on the agenda item down below, EV chargers and other pieces. Road conditions, we got parts of town, I guess, 3.5 inches on Saturday. The beach washed out again. It's the third or fourth time the beach has washed out. That'll keep happening until DOT replaces that culvert down there. But we had a little bit of margin washouts on Tenny Hill. One of the residents called up there and I relayed that to DOT. But otherwise drove all the gravel roads. And Brian was out on Dagerstrom, so I checked with him that I think the roads were okay from washout concerns. Elliotsville, we've largely got the patching work done. Steve's done a great job with Arvo out there on the patch material, doing that with cold patch. Looking like to stay within budget that you authorized on that and have hopefully a little bit of cold patch remaining to use for patching projects, including the culvert replacement on North Guilford. For those culverts, one of those is a paved driveway. So we need to patch that up and still proceeding on schedule to do that other culvert work, both over behind the Ranches property, the quarry, the town piece over there with those culverts in the North Guilford culverts up near the Legion. I think that might be it for my updates, unless there are any outstanding questions.
The emails are coming through, so the server
Yes.
has been,
Yeah, and that turned out to be, that was a migration from InMotion. So that largely a migration problem where we're now over with Sierra for the server and migrated over there for the email.
That is still in process. The problem, that we having, Bill and I, where our emails weren't sending was a error on InMotion's part. So, the IT people got a hold of them and they got that resolved. So, been working good. But we are still, intending to migrate to Microsoft 361 through Sierra.
yeah, your emails coming in.
Going out.
Yep.
Good, thanks. Select board reports. Sue?
Bill and I talked real briefly before the meeting, but I just wanted to mention, because, and we talked about this a while back, but things kind of got kind of busy. Since the town, the office is closed on Monday and Wednesday, we talked about trying to get everything to us on Fridays so that we have better preparation for the meetings, and going forward, we're gonna do that. And also provide us with the written town manager reports like we used to do, which would be helpful and make our meetings more efficient as well. Bill, was there there was mention of a possible, and maybe it was the work on North Guilford possibly having to go to bid. Do we know any more about that?
So for paving, that would be, there are two pieces of paving that we would, or two pieces of paving we'll consider doing in the spring. That would be the top of
In the
Homer
spring,
Hill
okay.
and the hill on Pleasant Street. Scope that out for the potential. It's about 400 feet. The steep hill on Pleasant Street would be a good place. It really goes completely gone in the spring.
Is that where it turns gravel and then?
No, it's in the middle of the gravel section, but it's pretty steep hill
Yeah,
down
yeah.
with a curve.
Right.
And when that lets go in the spring, it's almost impassable.
Mhm.
And that would be a good place to pave. That, it's about 400 feet, top of Homer. We had scoped out and estimated for that. I think would be worth bidding out and doing. And then the North Guilford Road near the Legion,
Mhm.
that longer piece, there are two big culverts for driveways, just uphill of the Legion. Maybe one is the Legion. And then, but going from there, continuing down the ditching work that needs to be done and the retention, as the water escalates down there. We'll be diverting, with the culverts aimed that way, we'll be putting more water down that side of the road. And probably will hold up till spring, but we'll need to do significant work, and that riprap rock work will be more significant. So that's the piece that we're envisioning, doing the culvert replacements this fall, and then doing the more significant ditching work in the spring.
Okay.
And
That's all I had.
there is money there, I think you can see from the reserve balances, if we're doing those discrete paving projects and discrete ditching, both the road improvement and the paving should have adequate funds in the reserves to handle those discrete pieces.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, sir. Jamie?
Yeah, Bill and I had a meeting with John Simcoe this morning regarding the fire truck, and last meeting we were authorized to negotiate on the part of the town to procure a fire truck, so we're going through that process. We had a very productive meeting. The next steps, I think, are to utilize what the fire department has already done as pricing and speccing out, and then utilizing what we learned in our conversation and bringing it all together, whether doing it now, putting money down now, negotiating with other vendors, just make sure that we're doing the town a good service, making sure that the timeline aligns with some of our debt service retirements coming up, so all that stuff. But we had a good conversation. Subsequent to that, we met with Ryan. We're gonna have a meeting hopefully tomorrow to kind of bring it all together and move forward. So the hope is in November town meeting, we will have something to present to the town, and but we're moving along with that process. So it's anything that, did I miss anything?
No.
Yeah. Did you want to bring up the water?
It's good to do that under grants, but we can do it now if you'd like to.
See.
The authorize the grants.
Oh, yeah.
But let's go ahead and do that now. So, yes, we've been awarded from Poland Spring the application for the water. That they have approved and authorized picking up a pallet. That's what I applied for. That's 72 cases. That's 1,728 bottles, 16.9 ounce size that will weigh about a ton, and scheduled to pick those up at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So accept that. Ryan's got that information. We'll pick that up tomorrow. So need a motion to accept.
How much was that grant worth?
What's that?
How much was that grant worth, or was it just
It's a pallet of water,
So it's-
1,728 bottles.
they don't have a dollar amount on it, they're just a donation, I guess?
Yes, it's a donation, but I think largely worth close to $1,728, or I don't know what they treat that for the value, but the retail price would probably be.
Sure. We'll make the votes when we get to new business.
Okay.
So part of that grant.
Yeah.
Also was with the fire truck was to discuss not limiting us from pursuing grants for the fire truck. That was also a piece of our conversation today, so a lot of it's timing, a lot of it's procurement, purchase versus leasing and all that stuff. I think we'll figure out what the legal case for it is, as far as like if we purchase it now or purchase it later, are we still eligible for the AFG?
Assistance for firefighter grants.
Yeah. So,
What's key in the grant world is generally once you've purchased something, nobody's gonna give you additional grant money.
Yeah.
So,
because you've established your, the town has established that they can purchase it, so there's not a need anymore, so that's a piece of the.
but we discussed with John today, different options and the way that a package can change or be modified and some of that to try to make sure that we're maximizing the grant opportunities that we have and also balancing that out against the likelihood. With John, we actually, because he's done a number of these grants as well, we talked about potentials and probabilities, and so there are ways to target what the need is, and so I think some of this will also be targeting other priorities, turnout gear, cardio monitor, to really try to figure out our highest probability on getting third-party funding. That's really the key with any of this. If we can find a way that we're getting money that's not just the taxpayers in Monson.
So is the idea here that we'll have a more substantive discussion at the next meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, I'll just knock out rec committee. Stacy sent an email, we're gonna have a meeting at some point, but we're starting to organize on a Google Sheet about priorities and ideas. And we'll have a meeting at some point where we can all get together. So, cool. That's it.
Thanks. I just have two things, one very small thing, one very large thing. The small thing is, can we get truck decals for our new truck?
Yes.
I think because there's like, yeah, it'd be nice to say Town of Monson Public Works, but also I think we're required to have.
Yeah, that would make sense. No, we talked about
License
that
numbers
before
and
and it just fell off the radar, but it will be back on the radar because the truck is actually, next week going to have the new plow and sander installed. So I'll be thinking of those things, so.
Great. And then the other topic is, it's just a question, I don't think you'll be able to answer, but in this meeting is about whether and how we apply personal property taxes to accounts. I've heard various accounts, and it conflicts with what my understanding was before. So I don't know if this is something that a town would like set a policy about or what have you, but has there been any discussion with the assessor about how we do personal property taxes?
No, but that issue did come up because there were a couple of people who came in with personal property questions where they now own the personal property in the business where somebody else might have owned it separately. And updating that is something that I had flagged to make sure that we're up to date and that we're consistent in how that's applied. Personal property is equipment. It's an odd term. So a lot of people, when they come in with their bill, will say personal property, and it's like, I don't have any personal, it's all owned by the business. But that's essentially your equipment. A lot of equipment in town is probably owned by leasing companies, Coca-Cola. There are, anybody who's got equipment, Xerox machines, copiers, a lot of restaurant equipment is going to be owned by the vendor who puts it in there, and they're supposed to pay the personal property tax on that. But, I think probably making sure we're up to date on the way that's applied and applied fairly and equally to that.
Exactly. I think that, so the question is, what are the guidelines? I don't actually know what they are. So just so that we can speak coherently about the rules, and then just to make sure that we're applying it consistently.
Top of my head, I think I recall it was something in the order of 600. No, I shouldn't say that, but but I was.
Super. So maybe for the next meeting, if we could just have some materials around that'd be helpful. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for me. We did rec committee beautification.
Beautification met this week. We are working on holiday decorations. We're going to try to extend them down toward Oval Road, farther down than we did last year. It's gonna cost a little bit more than I anticipated, so we have some thinking to do about how we do that, but
All right,
that's it.
thanks.
And we do have several appointments to the beautification committee that you need to make tonight, so either now or under your select board actions item.
We can add it to new business. Oh, wait, sorry, or maybe that's what, sorry, you were saying.
I'm
item
saying,
A, item A, right?
Yeah, item A
appointments.
will kind of be the standard that we'll keep on the agenda that covers everything you need to, like appointments, abatements, deeds, liquor licenses.
Perfect,
Oh, that's too-
okay. Wonderful. Moving to old business, the first item is CEO report and actions. Mr. CEO?
You all the paperwork last month. I gave you all the paperwork on what's going on last month.
Yeah, so Bill and I were talking about this earlier today.
Correspondence and what I sent out, and
You and I
haven't
were,
seen,
yeah,
I haven't
we
seen
don't
anything.
have that, and I'm not sure if,
So were they hard copies that were brought here?
yes, they were.
so this would have been the September 14th meeting. But what we also discussed is that I believe there are 3 properties on consideration for tonight.
There were 3 properties from what I submitted last month.
So if there are actions, we don't have any orders, I don't think, for, you know, what step you could take, but,
It would be good to review the materials, but I have never seen any materials, so if
Yeah, I
more-
remember a folder and
Yeah,
it
there
being brought
was
up here,
something, yeah, there was something.
but then I don't know where it went after that.
was it, because this was the one that I was on Zoom and Bill was out, so was it, the materials were left here after the meeting, or?
No, I handed them to Marty the morning of the meeting.
Gotcha.
No recollection of that. Let me go look around, if, are you moving on to, you wanna hold this one and I'll look out there, but I haven't seen anything since the last meeting, but I can go look around.
Well, but
There was something, I don't know if it was hard copy, I think
There
it might,
was one paper
Yeah.
that we had,
Yes.
that had the 3 properties listed along with the other, notes for that month.
Yeah.
But that's all I remember
Ken,
seeing.
did that have the recommendation for each of the properties for action items?
Yeah, I told them they had to fix what was in violation and the timeline they had to finish it, or at least make progress, or it was going to the board and I gave them the date it was.
No, I'm saying-
passed on to you guys.
Right, but were there specific action items for the board to take for each of those? That's kind of the piece that we're looking for
I said, I
tonight.
can't recommend actions to the board. It gets to the point that timelines run out and it goes to you guys to decide whether you're gonna find them, how much you're gonna find them,
right, but
how often they're gonna find them.
right, but what the materials were brought in were the document that Sue just referenced,
That's
or?
the first page. I also turned in paperwork on each property separately with copies of all the letters I sent. And when I send out a letter like that, I take the pages out of the rule book, photocopy them, highlight what's wrong.
Perfect, that's exactly what we're looking
You
for.
said in the last page on that, it's always, what's gonna happen if you don't do anything?
Yeah.
Which means it goes to you for fines.
Perfect, so it sounds like we just need to find the materials.
Okay, I guess, yeah, was it in a manila folder?
No, it was just a sheet that I handed you. What was in the manila folder was all the stuff on Kathy Johnson.
Okay, that's what I had in my head, and I thought that that was what you left here. Well, if you'd like, I can go take a quick look around. I mean, I haven't stumbled onto anything since then, but.
Maybe we can just discuss the rules of order in the meantime? if
Sure.
That works?
Okay.
Yeah, okay,
All right, I'll be right back.
thanks. All right, the next item is to review and approve the rules of order.
I got it right here, Jade, Marty,
Oh, you found yours?
Yeah. it's code enforcement 914 is the PDF,
Was it emailed?
it was emailed. It was 9:14 from Marty. I'll forward it to you right
Oh, I got it too, okay. Yeah, that was the paper.
now. My issue is I don't think it's actionable.
Right, I thought.
I
it
think that was,
more
I think that was
information.
the feedback we,
Right,
it's 12 pages. Should I print it?
I think we all found
I
it.
have.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
found it.
Okay.
I think what happened at the meeting is that I only saw the first page that was on the table here.
Do you want me to let Marty know that you found it?
Thank you.
Yeah. That'd be
Save her
great. Thank you.
anxiety, yeah.
Marty, they found it in an email. They all have copies. They found it too.
Well, I was thinking folder this whole time. Should I run off some copies or do you have it?
We have it, but actually I would rather look at a
Yeah.
hard copy.
I'll run off 3 copies.
Okay.
Thanks.
And yes, please.
Dates.
I don't see details.
See what?
Details.
Yeah, and we need usually photographic evidence as well. Thanks.
Sorry about that. Guess I didn't know what I was doing.
First page.
All right, thank you, Ken. Let me start by saying that I am totally unenvious of your position as code enforcement officer and appreciate you being the first line, I was gonna say of defense, but of enforcement in our town. You know, there's been a lot of moving, a lot of shaking, a lot of forward progress, some sideways progress and some backwards progress. And it's important that we enforce the rules as enacted by the community to make sure that we put our best foot and face and everything forward. I know there's a wide range of how people respond to the types of inquiries that you're investigating, and it's generally not happy news that you're bringing to people. Although I guess when it's issuing permits and stuff, there's often exciting things that are happening. So maybe it's not all bad news, but I am extremely appreciative of the role that you're playing here. And you know, it hasn't been that long that you've been in this position actually, right? Well, I forget when the appointment was made, but.
Year and a half.
Yeah, and there's a lot of institutional history and a lot of personality history and a lot of things here. So I think we have, I think you've embraced the role and you have 2 thumbs up, full support from where I sit. For the issues here today, I think each of these is kind of in a unique category, and this is just me speaking. This is the start of the discussion here. I would put each of these in a different bucket. And what my initial thoughts are that for the Moosehead property, that maybe it makes sense to move that discussion to an executive session, given the complex nature of the property itself, and how big the issue actually is, and it's a complex ownership situation, so on and so forth. I think there's a lot of nuance to that discussion that might be better suited for an executive session. For Center Street,
Next
sorry,
month.
go ahead.
Next month.
Yes, yeah. For Center Street, since Mr. Dunphy has been so kind as to show up and to come here now for 2 meetings in a row, I think we should hear his thoughts on the matter. It's also it's a long-standing issue, so I'm hopeful that we can make some progress together on this here tonight. And then for the property on Greenville Road, I think there's a number of items that are detailed here. My first thought is to just connect, it could even be informally with Kent on a couple of checklist items that I think we'll want to add to the report, just to make sure we're covering our bases procedurally. Yeah, okay. So thanks again, Kent. We'll punt 2 of these 3 items and then we'll address Center Street here tonight. I think the issue is very straightforward, right? It's the condition of the building. Well before this came onto the agenda, I was actually looking at this at the building a number of years ago, and I couldn't tell if it was under renovation or if it was in the condition from the past. And I was looking on Google Street View and could see that the previous picture was taken sometime in 2011, and it basically looks the same as it does now. So I see that that code enforcement has been in touch with the property owner about making some progress here in the first half of the year. And there had been some correspondence. And so I guess I'd like to open the floor to you to share your thoughts on what your plans are for this property.
I see value. Most people would say tear it down, burn it up, or whatever, because it's horrible looking. But I see value, and I see value in several different ways. And you can't make something valuable if it's in horrible shape unless you fix it up and make it beautiful. And that's what I'd like to do. Now, I can't do it myself. You as a board can't do it. The town can't do it. So I've thought in my mind that since the federal government owes me at least $2 million, and I would say 5 million to 15 million, I want to go and appeal to them to get that money paid to me. Now, do you understand what I'm talking about?
I do, except that it's important. This is a code enforcement discussion.
I understand that.
And the building has been deemed dangerous by the code enforcement officer. It is also in.
He's the code enforcement officer, the guy with the white hair?
Yep.
That's the first time I've seen him. I've been here to, 3 different selectmen meetings?
Two. This is the second one. But there
was another meeting in there too, but.
So just to be clear, the purpose of this meeting is to hear from you about your immediate plans or lack thereof to bring the building into compliance.
I've contacted one contractor. I haven't heard back, but I will follow up on it. And I think it would be outstanding. There are several other contractors that could work on it too. I hired a guy back before 2011. And he didn't follow through with what I hoped that he would. So he didn't finish up what he was called to do.
Do you have any records of contacting since May 31st?
Do I have, I'm sorry.
Do you have any records of contacting any contractors since May 31st, 2020?
I have a letter that I sent to one contractor.
You do have a letter?
I don't have it with me, but I can get it. I can tell you who it is, but I don't think that's important.
Well, so I think what we're looking to understand is if there are any specific things that you have in mind to do the work on the building. It's been derelict for decades. And so you know,
I
the,
understand, and this town has been extremely patient beyond what is expected. I understand that. And except for the fact of the uniqueness of the building that I think is worth saving, I would tear it down myself. I bought it for $4,000.
but specifically, do you have a plan to repair the building?
I'm hoping that I can find somebody who understands how to save the building. And I've got some ideas about that. When you put in stringers that are flat like that and not like that,
So
we've been
we have,
through that.
we have there's only one question on the table here, and it's, do you have a plan to repair
Yes.
the building?
Yes,
And what is your timeline for completing that work?
well, it depends on what I can get for contractors.
Right, but it's been decades, and so what
Well, I know,
makes now
I
different?
haven't, I've been delinquent on getting anything done, I know that. So from this point on, I'll ask the contractor that I am looking at to reply to you as a selectman to say either he'll do it or he won't do it. And if he doesn't choose to do it, then there are other contractors around, so I don't, I'm just I don't even have the money yet. And I'll make the point that I would like to use the town of Monson, so that people can see what has happened in the corruption of our government. Now, that means that everybody in this town should know what I know about the corruption in government.
You're free to speak your mind
I know,
as you wish, but this is a code enforcement
You wanna
discussion.
get down to, and the code enforcement officer, if he's the one that wrote to me, he's very understanding and he's very good. And I was pleased to see that he wrote to me kindly, in a kindly fashion. It wasn't warranted. So I started thinking about how to get money. It'll take hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix that up. Where do you get the money for that? Well, I do know that the federal government hasn't paid me for my work in putting Whitey Bulger in jail.
Sure.
You know that, so.
So, in your correspondence with the code enforcement officer in May of this year, you had requested 6 months, or maybe it was earlier than that, but, May. You had requested 6 months to fix it up, or that you would sell the property.
Correct. It's almost 6 months.
Right. So,
But then, sorry, the town rejected that request.
sure, I'm just giving everybody the benefit of the doubt here. So at the end of May, you had requested 6 months to complete the work or sell the property. And
I think, didn't I say that I would start the process of getting it done? I don't, did I say?
you said, I will fix it up. If the town could give me 6 more months, and if no progress is shown, then it will be sold or deeded away.
Yeah, no progress. I agree.
Look, it's been more than 10 years. I don't think that another month is going to make a difference. I'm of the opinion that I'm happy to honor that 6-month request and take action at the next meeting. Should the property not be sold or fixed up by then, but I don't think this is a complicated issue here.
I almost gave up. I was down in Florida, as you know. And I said, oh, heck with it, I think Monson has a real opportunity to honor the Swedes and the Finns in this town that settled the slate quarries, essentially made the slate quarries. That's why I put that notice from I think it was the Lewiston Journal or something about kick sleds. That's why I put that in there. I'm not Swedish, I'm not Norwegian, I'm not Finnish. I'm Irish American.
Sure.
So what's the action?
Yes.
Is a motion to make?
What can happen out of this is that if you choose a town to produce kick sleds in this town
Yes.
as an industry.
I understand that, sir.
Okay.
This is a code enforcement discussion, and so the process here is that the building has been deemed dangerous, and the town is going to require that it be either fixed up or torn down. And you have the option to bring the building into compliance on your own, or the town has the authority to demolish the building and send you a bill.
I served as a code enforcement person down in Castine. And the planning board down there created a plan for the town that was very, very strict.
Sir, I'm
So I
interested in
understand that
speaking
strictness.
about your building. Do you have any specific plans to bring the building into compliance, the property into compliance?
Only that I can get somebody to do it.
But
I'm not I've fooled around with contractors and I've done contracting myself. But I'm not going to be able to do the contracting on this building. It takes more than my capabilities.
okay, understood. Thank you. I think we understand this position.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What were you gonna say?
What's the action? Just move to condemn and tear down the building?
There is a process. Again, I think we should consult to make sure that we're following the order of operations. There are more notices than we have completed to date.
Okay.
And wait period, so on and so forth, but
Okay.
Yeah.
So
make
sure that maybe all those things are done by next meeting?
yeah, so the action here is to express our intent to move forward with bringing the property into compliance according to the process and timelines as dictated by, Maine state law. And we can, Bill, if you can consult with our attorney on that process such that we can complete this work as soon as possible. Mr. Dunphy, you of course have the opportunity to do that work yourself in the meantime, which would render our own work and attorney's fees and so on. You would save town money by bringing your property into compliance on your own. The alternative is, of course, that we demolish the building, clean up the site, and then send you a bill for that work.
I understand.
But that process will now be in motion, and officially we'll pick it up after consulting with our attorney. But I appreciate you coming here today. Sue, did you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. And so for the other two items, we'll pick these up at the next meeting. Great. Thanks again, Kent. All right, the next item on the agenda is to review and approve the rules of order.
So you have a copy of the draft. There are only a couple of things that needed to change, and of course I missed the big one on the first page. So we're only meeting the second Thursday of each month, so we should cross out and fourth as well. That should be deleted. And then on page 2, under 4C, this had been previously stated that no member may participate or vote in any adjudicatory proceeding, including proceedings on licenses, permits, or other approvals, unless the member was present during all hearings thereon. And as I mentioned at last meeting, the MMA legal, what am I trying to say, packet that I read, said that it is being more lenient now, that board members who miss one or more board meetings, as I wrote here, at which substantive discussions of an application, license, or approval occur, may participate in the decision-making process if the board member takes steps to educate him or herself about the substance of the meeting that was missed and makes a statement as part of the official record documenting educational steps that were taken. So I just propose to add that instead.
And then on
That's
six C, you made a change just for the YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah. In reading that, we talk about all public board meetings will be recorded, but we are now making the videos available on our YouTube channel. So if that's okay to add that.
Yep.
All right.
Sounds good.
Marty, would you mind, I don't know if this was your job, I think previously, making those changes?
Yep.
And then we can put new ones out there.
Yep.
Okay,
We can do that.
thank you very much.
So maybe I'll move that we adopt the rules and then we can just sign an updated version later.
Okay.
So I'll move that we adopt the rules of order for Monson Select Board meetings as amended.
Second.
All in favor? 3-0. Next up is Bodfish Valley ATV contract and ATV town road access guidelines.
Well, I can kind of start. So this kind of started before JD joined us, so I thought I'd kind of go over some history of it.
Sure.
So back in, gosh, when was it? May, I guess. We had a meeting and there were a lot of folks from the Abbott Club that came and a couple from Bodfish Valley. And yeah, most of the folks here were ATV riders in some way. And so we talked about like guidelines and this, and sorry, back up a little bit. So I think it was last year, maybe even the spring before, we talked about having some guidelines for the select board to go by when considering allowing ATVs on our town roads. And so I was kind of tasked with researching that, checked other towns' websites, checked with MMA legal department. They didn't have any such thing. And they said to me, it'd be great if you came up with this, because there wasn't such an animal. So I put together it's about 10 or 11 items that seem to run throughout other towns when they consider they had policies as well. And I put those together, and I have that list here as well. So I shared that at our May meeting. And where did we go from there? Oh, so the Abbott folks had presented us with their contract at the May meeting. It was a pretty clear contract in terms of, they would enforce themselves. And that was one of the, the things, the items that a lot of towns noted as being a criteria for them, is how they would enforce it. So anyway, we're at the point where we know that we need to have a more official agreement with the Bodfish Valley Club. And in addition to having access from Elliotsville Road on the main road into downtown, which we don't have from DOT yet. But before we do that, I was wondering if we want to kind of put together some criteria that would make our approval process a little bit more objective. I mean, there's gonna be still some subjectivity to it, but at least some guidelines that we can go by. So that's where we are. And I can read off those items that,
So who's asking for the agreement? Or is it, do we want the agreement, or does the Codfish want the agreement?
I think, I don't know, how did we leave that
With Bodfish?
with Bodfish?
Well, the Bodfish needs state approval, right?
Yeah,
And do they need anything from us in
Yeah,
order to get
it'd be a
that?
letter, it'd be a letter of support from the town, the DOT authorization.
But do they have access to Elliott's Road?
9 miles of Elliottsville Road, and so I don't know what the
Who granted that?
some,
The select board did,
The
yeah,
select board did.
and I don't know what year that happened.
at least 3 years ago.
Okay, so sorry. Yeah, so,
And it was informal trial basis, you know, if it was a vote to allow access and, you know, we can change our mind at any time essentially as well.
And it was good for 1 year. They were
Right.
asking for 3 or something, or 5, I think they had done in the past, but it was agreed that just 1 year, and it's because you guys wanted to work on, your guidelines.
right,
You're talking about Bodfish?
or Abbott, I know Abbott.
That was that was
Oh.
the Abbott agreement.
Oh.
Bodfish was way back.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no meat on those bones. It was just because we said so.
And Abbott had lapsed, but you renewed for 1 year.
Mhm.
For the
Is it-
season that we just had.
So it's for the last season.
The
So
season
it's
we're in
expired.
right now. Yes.
Or according to it.
Yeah, we'll need to renew with Abbott if you want. And when they were here the month before the the big planning meeting, they came to renew on their contract. So we renewed it in April for this current season.
Yeah.
Not knowing that we would have a fuller discussion around renewing. And they talked a lot. It was quite helpful about the way they will vote trail use. If there's abuse on the trails, they will shut off the trails.
But their season was like Memorial Day. We talked about whether it was the week before Memorial Day or Memorial Day, but I think we did Memorial Day to,
They're ending it, I just saw it post, end of this month, the 29th, I believe.
gotcha, so that's. So your question is, do we want to support them with their DOT application? Do we want to provide this letter of
Yeah, I
support?
guess
Or
there's
do
two.
we want to do the rules first?
Right.
And I forget the process of drafting those rules. Do we have any sort of framework yet? Because I think you had come up with something.
Yeah, I have like these bullet items, like I said, that other towns use in considering. But nobody, again, no town that I could find had a specific, like, these are the criteria that the select board will go by in considering opening the town.
So, I wasn't here in May, so but I think from what you said, there are comments on each side. And more or less 50-50. So all the ATVs that we saw in town this summer
Mhm.
were out of compliance because of DOT. Because the main road here is the only way that either they park to go to restaurants or the gas station. So they need that DOT approval to go to the restaurant, to drive to the restaurants and the gas station.
If they're coming from Elliottsville Road.
Can they get from Abbott?
The Abbott, and how do they do it? They come down North Guilford,
I think they have to come up Water Street, right?
right up.
Because I think and they can't go beyond Water Street.
Right, you-
Water Street, move back around, and then back.
But it's down through the right of way.
Yeah.
From the power line.
Yeah. Yeah, poles power lines, it'll come out on North Guilford, but you can't access through North Guilford. You have to come out onto,
But when they come on Water Street, when they get onto
they have to come out.
the main street, they're out of compliance when they turn on to the main street.
I think
No.
that club's okay.
There's a certain distance that you're
1,500 feet of a right of way for them to travel on the main road.
On the main, so on the.
Correct. So they go 1,500 feet either way. Last I knew, when they come off Water Street, before they opened up the Elliottville Road, they were allowed to the school.
Yeah.
Couldn't go around the corner, that was the dead force.
And then they can go up to the gas station.
They go to the gas
Yeah.
station.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But they can follow the Willimantic Road all the way.
I didn't think they could.
But they can go down the power line on the Willimantic and go all the way
They
down.
can keep going past the power lines, right down Willimantic.
And then Stewart Road,
Or if you go past that, they can't go down Stewart Road.
they can't go, they just,
No, that's blocked off. Yeah, they can do the whole loop. They can literally do the whole Elliottville loop. They did have it blocked off.
So they can go
by the
start-
bridge.
sorry, they go Stewart Road all the way into the Willimantic Road all the way to Willimantic past the cemetery, take a left
Correct.
and go all the way
We're
around.
coming back all the way around.
But they can't go to the cemetery, take a right onto 15 or 150 and then.
They can only do that loop.
Okay.
And that was only for the access of both ways to get to, by Greenwood Pond is where the trail would go through, and it'd be 25 miles before they get up to Bottleneck.
I was trying to find a trail map online for the Bogfish Valley Club, and I couldn't find one. They don't have a Facebook page, so it was unclear like where their trails start and, you know, where their area is.
To the immediate question of whether we want to write a letter of support for their state application, I think it would be perfectly fair to request that they provide similar materials like Abbott did. You know, the map, the justification, how all these pieces interlink, et cetera. And, you know, we've gone around and around on this policy for quite some time. I think that's kind of indicative of where we're at. Like we have both mixed feelings for and against, but also mixed levels of intensity, high and low. And so, I don't know, I don't have a strong opinion on the matter personally. But generally, like these types of things tend to be responses to the clubs requesting certain things or responses to the community of people who live on those roads being for or against. Yeah.
And to segue on that too, it's I'm always sensitive about, you know, not pitting people, one group against another too, you know, so that's why having some criteria that puts the onus on us to make that decision rather than landowners or residents on those roads, you know, having to make that decision, if that makes any sense. It just seems like it's a more fair and equitable if we have a consistent way of applying the approval process.
So we've only got one approval right now, right?
For the
So
Abbott
Abbott.
Club.
So that's our
Right.
standard. I think we carry that forward and see if Bogfish will kind of be consistent with it. Like, I'm the same way. I don't even know if I'm on foot or horseback right now. So, like, I don't have a good measure of, like, what the pros and cons to them are. So, and I also don't know whether we need to do it. I guess that's my, like, I feel like people are taking advantage or gonna do what they're gonna, if it's self-enforced, we're not gonna enforce it ourselves. Why are we even getting into it?
Yeah, well, enforcement's a big issue. You know, we have ATVs on the North Guilford Road. You know, I've seen several, which aren't supposed to be on North Guilford Road.
I've seen it, but I mean, it's few and far between though.
Yeah,
And I don't wanna be prohibitive to
right.
people accessing businesses. That's fine. main thing, but at the same time, I don't wanna, if we don't have an enforcement mechanism besides just showing support for the DOT, we don't really need, probably get into it. I think the rules are there.
And, there are things that were mentioned to me, and we discussed at that Maine meeting, like, the safety, like, of the roads that ATVs are on. So the Abbott group, for example, the ATVs can go the same speed limit as the posted for vehicles, for cars. And Abbott said that the fastest speed limit that their club accesses are 35 miles an hour. So Bodfish Valley would be a little different because it's a 45 mile an hour road on the Elliottsville Road. So that there's just some differences.
What about, they talk about turn signals and insurance? Because they're on essentially a main road, and they're same as a vehicle at that point, in my opinion.
Right.
Is there a requirement to have insurance, and is there a requirement to have turn signals? Like, those are those things that.
They are going to use hand signals. I mean, the machines are manufactured with turn signals and everything, so therefore they would have to have it, because it'd be used as an ATV trail, not its roadway.
Yeah.
But all these trails here in this area, because we monitor them all the time, they're 25 miles an hour max. That's it. Down the road, down the Elliottville Road, they are posted 25 miles an hour max.
But legally, the ATVs can go the speed limit that's posted for
If
cars.
it's posted as 25 miles an hour, that's what they have to go by. They cannot go by because they're not a legal street registered vehicle.
Yeah, I think we need to double check on that because the information I was given is different.
I think we've gone around on this over a long period of time, many times. But kind of pulling these pieces together is like, what do we really have? We have a couple clubs. One seems very well organized. We have rules of engagement with them. We have another club who needs something. Why don't we just use this, like, rather than creating this framework from scratch that no other town in Maine has, and that honestly, like, I don't have strong feelings about one way or the other. I'm not gonna be the one that's sitting here banging my head against the table to make this rubric. Just go with what we have, and we can tweak it over time and address these elements as needed. I think that actually, in retrospect, kind of the way that things have unfolded is kind of what you want, right? Like, we've had clubs that said, hey, can you do this? And we said, yeah, we'll try it. And if it becomes a big issue, then we'll nix the whole idea. I haven't heard any loud sustained objection to what Bodfish has been doing on the Elliottsville Road. There's like examples here and there, but not anywhere near the level of opposition as when the Stewart Road conversation happened, right? We had people coming out of the woodwork with very strong feelings on both sides, but mostly against. And ultimately the board opted to say no, which I think was a reflection of the community's voice on this topic. And that's what we're here for, right? I mean, we're not here to like make a rule book and then just read the rules. We're not an agency, but we're an elected body that is supposed to reflect the will of the community. And so just like you don't want to be the first town to sue over now I'm mixing issues, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we don't need to be the first on ATV use in Maine. But let's make some incremental improvements on the path that got us here. And it sounds like applying the same framework that we have for Abbott to Bodfish is a nice.
In terms of like that contract.
Yeah, but like, hey, if you want us to support you in your Route 15 license, then we need to have the argument for
Fair enough, yeah.
in a formal way.
Yeah. Now that relieves us of a lot of stuff too on that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, if
requesting something, have them request it, and then we can utilize the Abbott framework to adjust from there, but,
Yeah, and they did that, right? They came and said, we would like you to open the road, and at the time, we said, okay, let's give it a try. And now we're saying, we want a bit more formality in that, and so we'll do that.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Do we know, like, the next step then? Cause we need to get a hold of.
Well, I mean, this is not on our, I mean, we can express our position. This is not a,
like, have they been asking something for like the last, because I wasn't here for May, but like, has it been, it seems like now we're in October. Like, I think we've gotten until.
We kind of pushed it off, it's
Yeah.
next season, right? So I wasn't around when everything started, with approving ATV access, for that group. My impression in May was that they never had like a formal agreement of any kind.
no, they didn't, but the question here is whose court is the ball in? It's not, we can tell them what our position is, but this is not a to-do for us. The question is, hey, will the town support a letter? Will the town provide a letter of support? Is that what they're asking for?
That's one part of it.
And what's the other part?
An agreement.
They want an agreement?
Right.
Or are we
I think
saying
that
that we want an agreement?
Yeah, I think we should say that we want an agreement. I'll follow up with them, but I believe at that meeting, and then in follow-up, LB Acre, who coordinates trail use, said he would help facilitate.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, so I'll follow up with Bill to say, can you assist this group on proposing and making?
And just to be clear, like, the ball is in their court.
Right.
Like, we're at the end of the season now, and so for next season, we will require a written agreement in order to provide access along Elliotts Hill Road. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right,
If that's what they want.
if they want access.
Well, I mean, I just don't wanna, like, volunteer work for us.
That's what I'm saying too.
So,
Yeah.
So it's like, just let them figure out what they want and then come to us, and then I don't wanna be the one to be like, hey, if you want next year access, write something up, and it's like, that's on them to figure out what they want.
Precisely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right. Because right now, even as it is, they're not legally allowed to access Main Street or, the town through the route that we've even given them access to. So they need to figure out how they're gonna do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. I think that horse is dead. But thank you. Yeah, the horse is maybe just unconscious or something. But. All right, next up, EV charger status and setting the charging rate.
Okay, so the charger, the special town meeting in February authorized purchase using grants of $18,000 and $5,000 and change of ARPA funds, so no town tax dollars going into the purchase and installation of a single bollard that will have 2 charging cords off of it. We've provided, or we purchased from Carbon Day. Maybe you would have heard, and Bulos Electrical is doing installation. And we've cited that in a way that's not gonna negatively impact other uses. And we're able to locate so that we could hook into power that's already in the bandstand, in the grandstand up at, there's 50 amp service up there that this unit requires 40 amps, so we've got more than sufficient power. And so the installation that is begun today for putting in the conduit connecting to the bandstand power unit was much shorter than was anticipated from coming out the back of the gymnasium where the main panel is located. So hopefully installation costs actually come in below budget. And the schedule has it with pad work being completed and hopefully the beginning of next week for installing the unit, protecting it there, 2 spaces that will serve that, and tying into our grid in a way where, well, the unit itself will be managed by third-party company ChargePoint provides the service where customers will form an account. We won't have to handle any of that. We can provide that electricity at whatever rate we want to. We can charge by the hour for hooking up, or we can charge by kilowatt time. Tying into a system, I think as you recall from our discussions around resiliency and the solar panels and all of that, we're tying into a system where the town already has a very progressive system around our electricity with solar panels that are on the garage out at the transfer station, where our electricity usage is largely paid for through those units. We have a lease purchase arrangement for the units, but it gives us a delivery of electricity where we pay the monthly service charge, but not a variable kilowatt hour rate. I would propose, and the contractor that Carbon Day, Bob Spatz with Carbon Day, who looked at what other similar units have around here, is that we charge by the kilowatt hour. Our variable cost on the kilowatt is negligible for the way our electrical bills are set up. But I really think that these units can carry a portion of that infrastructure cost that we have for our electricity in town, actually be a revenue generator for the town that will more than cover our administrative costs. It could go back into that. So I would propose kilowatt hour. I think others of you, Tyler, might have greater insight into this or the way we want to approach this. We can also make adjustments on a monthly basis if we don't like the way something's working with how much we collect or charge. We can shift to hourly hookup or change the rate on the kilowatt as well. So I have a rate that I would propose. It's what, looking at others around, Bob Spatz had recommended 16 cents kilowatt hour for charging. And Carbon Day or ChargePoint, who administers this, will take 10% of whatever we collect for administration of that.
Yeah, so we are in a unique position that we have our own power supply, power generation installation on the sand shed at the transfer station, which gives us electricity generated at a rate that is far below the grid price. But electric vehicle charging stations generally charge rates that are much higher than plugging in at your house because of the convenience of being able to charge in a parking lot as opposed to needing to do it on, anyway, you gotta pay for that infrastructure. And so I was quite surprised to hear that number, because that is not only like 60 or so % cheaper than the other numbers that I generally hear, but also that's like way below the market price of electricity. So do you know why they were recommending that price?
They would actually give, well, we could select anything from 0 to upper, and there's a range that would go up into the mid-30s. And it would all depend on, the goals and providing that. I think it's gonna be an access to a number of businesses from right there, where a 2 or 3 hour charge is gonna give time to dine and do a little shopping, which is ideally what look for that to do. But easily we could start with something higher than 16 cents per kilowatt hour. We're in a unique position where we don't have that variable rate on our kilowatt.
Well, even,
hours to set. But I think it should be a revenue generator.
no, exactly. And, I mean, the electricity prices are not variable on a month-to-month basis. They are on a year-to-year basis, but I mean, I think the price right now is like 26 cents a kilowatt hour or something like that. So it's, it should be at least that to cover our costs. But when did you say it's expected to be operational?
It should be installed and in place by next week, and I've got the activation paperwork going with Bob around activating the account. So not sure how long that's gonna take to activate, but we're in process on that. And the piece that I need for completing the paperwork on that is what we wanna do for how much money we charge for the charging station.
Gotcha.
So I'm just trying to think of the stations that are closest to us up in Greenville. Do we know what they charge?
Greenville has a charge as well at Indian Hill. And then there are.
Yeah, that's probably one of the ones that Bob looked at that was in the range of 15 to 26 or 16 to 26.
Yes. What, I mean, for our purposes today, like if there's a chance that this is actually gonna be operational before our next meeting, and not that this is like the most important thing in the world, but I think, what are the principles? This should earn us money, not cost us money. And, yeah, there's a balance between fleecing somebody and charging for a premium for convenience. Why don't we just give an initial benchmark of whatever, 26 cents, whatever the actual rate is. We just pick 26 just to make it even. And then I'll do some more research on this, and if I have a strong opinion that it should change, we'll bring it up at a future meeting.
Yeah, and once we're up and running and start getting some usage, and it can be adjusted, but I think this would be great. It's gonna be revenue enhancer for the town.
It would be great to do a ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could even do something small, like on the same day as we're doing the 2 other events, two was, on the 13th, is that what the date was?
13th is proposing, right?
Like a quick kickoff ribbon cutting.
Yeah. They do all tie together.
Yeah.
I like 26 cents.
Just a nice number.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a thing, but then why don't I make a motion that we set the price of electricity at our charging station at 26 cents? Second. All in favor? All right, great, thanks. New business is to sign select board documents. Is just appointments tonight?
Yep.
Okay.
3 for beautification.
Do you have Molly's pool in that list?
I actually have one from Molly, you, and
Already?
Sue.
Okay,
Yep, so, this is just for Zart, Kim, and Colleen.
so Colleen is it?
Huh?
I thought Colleen was an original member.
She may have been, but she didn't, I don't know if it were.
Okay.
Part of the city full names. This would be Kim Witham, Zart Van Zandt, and Colleen Pinkerton for appointment.
Great. More the merrier. Great job recruiting.
So they volunteered.
Yeah, take the credit.
Worked hard, come on.
They do it for the money.
right, next up is to authorize grant opportunities.
So the first is, as I said earlier, we were successful in getting an award from Poland Spring for water donated to the fire department. Requested 1 pallet, which is 72 cases, which is 1,728 bottles of water, and that's available for pickup at 9 a.m. tomorrow by scheduled appointment if you authorize.
Super. I'll move that we approve the donation of water from Poland Spring.
Second.
Sue seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Second, yeah. Second item, this came in just this week, came in late, asked the person approaching to, okay, to present it to you tonight to get initial approval to work with this client with Piscataquis County Economic Development Council. This is a request for Geneve Parish, who is looking to put together a business plan and get economic development grant through Piscataquis County Economic Development Council. This would be a CDBG grant. The initial inquiry, I have a sense this is a grant that was for economic development where the town essentially underwrites and supports sort of the backup insurance policy in doing that. They work well, typically. So this is just an initial request from you if it's okay to proceed. And as I said, Geneve said, yes, please do ask, because these things you can approach confidentially. This was one, said, yes, go ahead. This would be for putting together a grant proposal that would come to you for final authorization, but would be essentially approaching a grant that I believe is in the $30,000 range. This is for a mobile sauna business, and potentially siting at location as well. The initial business plan looks great. So this is a request to work with Geneve and Kathy White at Piscataquis County Economic Development to see what terms are requested and what would come to the town, but to come back to you with a full proposal.
Cool. I don't think we need to vote on anything, but it sounds interesting. And the thought that comes to mind is maybe we should, in the interest of efficiency and so on moving forward, maybe we have some sort of like a summary or something that just gets submitted in advance of the meeting, so then if there's something.
Like I said, it came in literally. Yes, yeah, absolutely. This was more the initial indication of okay to proceed, and bring in more details and application.
I guess my point is, I don't know that if there's anything for us to discuss, because if there was something something to even review, then we could do that, but do you follow what I'm saying?
I do, and that grant proposal is something that could be ready by November, but I did want to proceed with informing you before starting the research on that, in case I've been involved in these sort of supporting business grants in the past. I'm not sure if the town has done one in the past, but I think this is something well worth looking into.
Great. Okay. Anything else in that category?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, great. Then we will actually go into, I'll move that we remove the executive session from our agenda.
A second.
Second, all in favor? All right, then I'll move that we adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Great. We are out at 7:53.
Lightning. Much better than mine.
Ryan brought some
Data, perfect.
I thought you were gonna do